Hello and welcome, football fans. We are here and we are live. The Panthers Podcast coming at you here and live. Episode 2 now. Episode 2 coming at you. And as you can see, we have upgraded the backgrounds and stream elements and everything in between. Big shout out to the folks over there at the UFL Media Group for helping out, everything in between. What Ace sending out loads of graphics and everything, making us just look better. Giving us the look that the Michigan Panthers deserve, folks. Giving us the look that we deserve. Let's hop right on into it. Michigan Panthers Week 2. This was against the Birmingham Stallions, of course. This is one of the greatest teams in the UFL, if not the best. Stallions obviously coming off 2 USFL championship wins as well, and an 8-game run coming into this right here and right now. Folks, we started off with a fantastic 3-and-out, really showing the Stallions like what our defense is made of. The Michigan Panthers, the offense has been up and down. The defense has really shown strong consistently through 2 weeks of play. It's been absolutely fantastic to see. So started off with a 3-and-out, then forced a decently long field goal. I believe it was 43 yards after backing them up. So to go down 3-0. The problem is this is where we kind of get on our own heads and whatnot, right? Next drive was an INT. Both offense and defense just got a little bit deflated, honestly. Then we had Etling coming on in. This was not exactly a point of inspiration and whatnot, right? Attempted one single pass, did not make that, ended up fumbling the ball on the next play right there. Stallions picked this one up. Now, us just forcing 3 field goals in a row from the Stallions, even off of turnovers. We'll kind of get into that a little bit later as far as exactly how much that went on to affect. Well, let's see how the Michigan Panthers doth respond.
And it's 39.
Boom, boom, boom.
To the 30. We're running. Marcus Sims to the end zone. 76 yards.
Ooh. Beauty. It doesn't get much better than that, folks. Absolutely beautiful. Now, this was such a statement made, right? Everyone talks about the Stallions' defense, and yes, they are a very, very complete team. This doesn't happen off the back of, the fastest performance, right? The fastest individual performance by a player in Week 2, Marcus Sims hitting 21.5 miles an hour. All right, 21.5 miles an hour. Hands down the fastest within Week 2, and a little bit faster than me. I've driven faster, I suppose. I've gone on a plane faster, I suppose. Marcus Sims, I'll see you later. 76 yards to the absolute house. This also just, again, statement made, right? This shows what E.J. Perry can do when he's given space and when Sims can break away from that runner, right? It was just a straight-up post slot right down the right side of this field, right down the right hash mark, takes it all the way in for 6. Now, fact of the matter is that the defense did decently on the upcoming drive, but coming back to this one, they allow persons coming through, rushing touchdown in the second. Well, let's once again see how the Michigan Panthers doth respond.
Get the ball to ladder. Snap is down, clean hold, kick is up, and it is good. Build him the statue right now.
Build him the statue right now.
But let's be real about this. The NFL was not watching him before.
Are they? Who knows? I would be if I was on any of the 32 NFL teams. Insane stuff. 64-yarder. Back-to-back after getting nice for the Week 1 walk-off victory. 62 to finish out the first half there against the Stallions. Obviously improving to a much more manageable one-score deficit after that one, 10-17. The simple fact that we have a kicker that might actually be the single most popular player on the team. No shade to anybody else right here, but like the single most popular player when it just comes to like views and clicks and links and everything else like that, right? Folks, the kicker, the most popular player on the Michigan Panthers, Jake Bates. Who knows? We'll see him on an NFL squad next week. Moving on along here, that was the 62 yard bomb. End zone defense stands strong following up with this one. A pick in the end zone in the third quarter to still keep this game manageable. As it is, though, I mean, what 3 field goals in the first, some more scoring by the Birmingham Stallions in the second. The second half was even. It was 3 points scored from both of us, but again, death of the thousand cuts, and Perry, despite being able to toss the rock and running attempts, really, honestly, great rushing attempts from EJ Perry, not able to get this one back, turns it over on fourth with the last few seconds of the game ticking down. Birmingham kneels for the 20-13 victory for them. A team on an 8-game run, just doing what a team on an 8-game run does. Obviously, 8-game run, the 6 last games, are the 6 final games of the last season, 4 regular season, and then 2 in the postseason. Taking a look at some of the matchups here, though, or the lines, right, the stats and whatnot. 60 total plays for Birmingham, 55 for Michigan. What this tells me is, like, even if time of possession might have been a little bit different, like, resulting from this differential, this 5-play differential between these two teams, we kept up with the best team in the UFL and definitely the best team in the USFL. Michigan did a fantastic job here and just keeping along with a squad like this. Even if, obviously next time we'll play Birmingham at home, we'll see how it goes again. Regardless, Michigan Panthers losing by 7 to the best team in the UFL, 20-13. Nothing to write home sad about, folks. We took the best team. We kept them to a 1-score deficit the entire game. A couple things different, couple of field goals not given up off of turnovers there, especially if we get 3 and we don't give up 6. We're looking at a much different score line. Moving on along into the preview here, Houston and Michigan. Houston Roughnecks coming into our house, Ford Field. Houston coming in 0-2. A lot of people would be talking about how this is one of the worst teams in the league, and if we had to rank them 1 through 8, they're either 7 or 8 for me. DC is really down there as well. Houston has also gone through the quarterback change. Garantano getting injured last week. Sinnott coming in and playing better. I'll give him that, and playing better. Houston's defense, middle of the road, not gonna really get it done passing wise, and sometimes the other side of the ball. Rushing wise, we can put a big asterisk next to most everything that Houston has done so far, because big man Mark Thompson not played in the first 2 games, and I believe doubtful for game number 3. For our sakes, I'm gonna say and hope that Mark Thompson isn't playing in week number 3. Get healthy, man. Get healthy. Make sure that you're good for yourself. You don't need to take the field anytime soon. What are you talking about, right? If you're healthy, then you're wealthy. Okay, Mark Thompson. There's no need to come into Ford Field this weekend. All right. No, but getting through a preview here. Keys to victory, generally, first and foremost, just get out. Like, this is week 3 coming in. Those week 1 jitters, the beginning of the season jitters, we're now reaching, third game, getting towards the middle of this season. These jitters cannot keep happening. There's a couple small penalties that really could have not happened against us, and that really did take the wind out of the sails multiple times when it came to momentum, offensive and defensively. So number 1, just get out of our own heads. We played great, and then offensive turnovers, the fumble by the backup quarterback, the interception by Perry. This turned into points, and points this is, again, just a slow burn, death of 1,000 cuts right here. And we let that, you could visibly see, offense and defense, that letdown really got to us and whatnot. And if the mentality had been differently, we say this all the time in esports, specifically Rocket League, you got to have the memory of a goldfish. Go forth and just play whatever down is ahead of you. Don't necessarily pay attention to what happened last week. Don't pay attention to what just your quarterback just did. Don't pay attention to running backs, receivers, dropping passes, dropping balls, fumbling, whatever else like that. Go forth and play the game in front of you. Get out of our heads. Second, key to victory here. Don't outstress Perry when it comes to the passing game here. Perry is a good quarterback in his own right, but has a lot of room for improvement here. The fact remains that we have some of the most up and down receivers here. You see things like Sims, these absolute bombs, and you see them breaking out and getting into coverage, and frequently EJ Perry. I mean, there was even that kind of funny sideline interview, right? He just bobbled it, and he was very, very straightforward. It just hit it straight against the ground, putting putting holes in the green right there. 20 on 33 attempts, passing attempts right here. We got to cut these numbers down a little bit more, especially when you have a man named Wes Hills running the ball. 8 attempts. That's what I saw on the day. The stats broadcast website right now is saying 7 attempts for Hills. I'm not saying EJ Perry shouldn't rush by any means, right? Play action, all of these various things, giving EJ Perry options is never a bad thing. Keeping like passing lanes and things like this, or all, like keeping these at the front of your mind is always going to be good, okay, people? But at the end of the day, I felt like we just forced too many passes in week 2, and that number can be transposed, extrapolated, whatever you want to call it, from only 7 attempts from the website, 8 attempts. That's what I saw for Wes Hills. No, he did not get very much done. Only 10 yards, 1.4 on average on those 7 attempts. Yes, EJ Perry got way more things done, but this is what I'm kind of this is the kind of pressure that I'm talking about. EJ Perry has the potential to be truly that running and passing quarterback. We really need to let teams know that. And Houston's defense, again, more middle of the road, giving them more things to worry about is never going to be a bad thing for the the Michigan Panthers playing at home. Let's see. And not forcing big throws on offense. When they do, let's please see Sims get these again. We saw how he was able to break out against some fantastic secondary players for the Birmingham Stallions in week number 2. Once again, 21.5 miles per hour fastest in week number 2. We targeted him a whole lot. I really want to see how 8 targets translates into this week's matchups in week 3 and it faced against a defense that's not named the Birmingham Stallions, because Houston's defense, gotta say, just not that guy when it comes to passing and whatnot. Speaking of getting the tight end involved, right? Cole Hikutini, I hope I'm saying that right, only targeted 2 times, and just the simple fact that we have this threat coming out of the backfield in the form of Wes Hills. Frequently, you fake this out to this guy, your tight end's gonna be there and gonna be involved, even if especially if he comes up and kind of feigns that blocking just a little bit. Let them bite in on this and let him separate. At least get those 5-7 yard passes. I feel like is where we're gonna live at this week. Outside of, again, the big bombs. Pressure passes and force the runs, dude. Sinnott and Garantano didn't run one single time. They relied completely on their not the wide receivers, on their running backs in week number 2 to get it done on the ground, and this was against DC. DC is simply different defense. DFC was only managed to come up with a single sack. They did force 2 fumbles. One of them recovered. DC and Michigan's defense, you cannot compare in any way, shape, or form. Houston's also only 6th in passing. Michigan is the number 1 in the passing defense. Force them to throw the ball here. We'll get to whether or not my kind of asterisks here if Mark Thompson does play, but I just don't have faith in Houston's rushing offense, and so forcing them to throw the ball is going to be an equation that equals out positively for Ole Michigan. They're also last in rushing, like absolute last in rushing when it comes to yardage, attempts, more middle of the road. Again, no Thompson here, so I really want to force passes for Reed Sinnott and see what happens to this 136 and a half passer rating when he's facing a defense that isn't the DC defenders, isn't towards the bottom of the barrel with most defensive statistics, and definitely not number 1 in passing defense, which Michigan is. Now, I want to give a huge shout out to that defensive play up against last week against the Roughnecks, right? The bomb out there to the Houston receiver, and DC defender comes up behind and just pops that right on out and runs back the other way, 10 or 15. This was a huge breakaway play that at least equals to 3 points, if not a full 7. This was a fantastic awareness. And on the other side, the receiver just literally, he just does one of these, looks to his right a little bit, realizes one of these is coming right up to right here, then that play goes differently. Let's see, pressure passes. Yes, and this should be obvious. Captain Obvious showing up right here to give us hindsight, but the turnovers, man, the turnovers. The second half of this previous game with the Birmingham Stallions was relatively low scoring. Again, it was actually completely tied. We both scored 3 points. Each team only scoring 3 points with a field goal on that. This first half goes completely differently. Okay, completely differently. If we're staring down the barrel of a Birmingham Stallion squad that doesn't get 6 points off of these turnovers from, again, the AJ Perry interception, the Etling the fumble right there. Here comes the asterisk, folks. Here comes the asterisk. Mark Thompson. believe it was a possibility. It's up in the air as far as whether or not the leading rusher in the USFL from last year is going to come forth and play here for the Houston Roughnecks. This is a different game through and through, but my advice just goes completely more so for what I was saying earlier, and that is like forced rushes, obviously, or forced passes, excuse me. This is way harder with the man named Mark Thompson on the side, especially given the man can catch balls as well, really reliably, I might add. But again, Houston sixth in passing. I don't believe that Mark Thompson is going to affect the passing game that much outside of just being a consistent threat. If we can get our defensive line, which has done a fantastic job so far across these 2 weeks, one of these games obviously being against the toughest offense in the league. Let's actually take a look at this. This is, let's see, let's go look at our defenses. Michigan Panthers giving up, nope, those are teams. Bam, giving up 2 on 10 as far as third downs, right? These are the kind of numbers that we need. Also, a lot of these were done, or at least got up there like through the ground as well. It's going to be a tougher story if Mark Thompson is involved, but regardless, we are looking at a Michigan defense squad that is number 2, maybe third, but really number 2 in the league, and in various statistics that really matter, like say passing defense, we are number 1, and that is how we're going to shut down the Houston Roughnecks this upcoming weekend, folks. And a little addition here on the end for you guys for the Panthers Pack. That is the Panthers Points Podcast. Yes, we have a thing for alliteration here at the Panthers Podcast. Now, taking a look, week 3, I have placed these the picks that I am taking in the bold outside of the very first game. Outside of the very first game here, DC and Arlington. I did this differently. Guys. All of these lines as well taken from MGM, the Lion app over there. Obviously, pick what it, these are my picks. If you can get better numbers on your app, then do that. Money is money. First up, Arlington hosting DC. This is a number that has flipped back and forth since it was released on Wednesday, I believe. We are filming here Friday morning now. Friday morning, 1:30. We call that esports morning. We don't do stuff early, folks. I've always been a night owl. 1:36 is my morning. Over under 43.5. DC's, both of these teams' defenses are middle of the pack. DC is nowhere near Arlington's, though. And Luis Perez can sling that rock. Teamo over there in DC is outside of the performance there at Audi Field. You had home field advantage. You're playing against the Houston Roughnecks and barely pushed on a -5 right there. Also, guys, I have, I've been doing this a little bit of time. I have never in my entire life pushed more bets than I have across 2 weeks of UFL thus far. I think probably like 20 individual wagers between pregame and live bets placed, and I think like 5 of them have pushed. One was on a St. Louis first half, one was on DC Defenders, one was on an over, and I cannot exactly actually remember what the last one was. One of them, though, was this DC team hosting Houston last week. I thought -5 was way under what it should have been, especially given once Mark Thompson was admitted to not be there. But regardless, I am leaning over on this. I am leaning over on 43.5. Again, kind of going back to the same kind of idea that these two teams can really put up points on the offense is just a little bit stronger, honestly, than their respective defenses. So go ahead, lock it in on in. That is the points there for Arlington plus anything. Honestly, I think I actually got it at +1.5 a couple of days ago, but over. Honestly, not feeling great about this, but just gun to the head type bet. Feeling over 43.5 there for DC. Visiting Arlington. Next game here, do not feel great about the points here. +7 for Memphis. Seems like the perfect number. It honestly seems like the perfect number. This is Birmingham's first home game as well, so this is going to come into play. It has been a theme established so far here across 2 weeks of the UFL. Even though I'm a mild USFL fan, more so than I was XFL, watched both leagues religiously last year. XFL teams show up. Straight up. And these are two USFL teams. Yes, Birmingham had a hub last year and the year before that, but this really depends on how many Birmingham Stallions fans show up. Will they pack the stands? I am not the first person to say this by any means. I do not like some of these massive venues being chosen for UFL games, because you get in there and you see in a certain part of the stadium might be absolutely packed, but then as the game goes on, you kind of look and it looks like there's nobody in the stands. Casual fans who are tuned in for 5 minutes are going to see this, and if other people aren't excited about it, it's hard to be excited about it yourself without somebody knowing about, right? Anyway, this is going on down to Birmingham once again. Don't feel great about it, but have to take the Stallions there on again coming in week 2, 8-game run. Love Memphis to death. Love the team, love the squad. Love Vinny Papali, love Case Cookus. But end of the day, this is a Stallion squad, and you just don't take points against them until you're talking double digits, maybe in a league like this where comebacks are so possible. Even if they do happen to be behind in the later part of the second half or the first half. Now, over here, this is what I'm feeling though, because while Memphis's defense is solid, their offense can get it working as well. I really feel like this is a situation of Birmingham's offense continuously overpowering the Memphis defense, and then Memphis doing this one as well. That said, I'm feeling this one to be a 21-8. 24-10, something like this here for the squad. I'm leaning under for Birmingham and Memphis. Birmingham playing at home. Moving on along here to the game of the week. If you ask me, if you ask the Panthers podcast, this is Houston visiting Michigan. Ford Field up there in Detroit. Next week, gonna be hosting the NFL draft as well. How exciting! How exciting. Absolutely love that. We're going to be looking at a 2.5 I believe that's 2 now, excuse me, a 2 point favorite there for Michigan coming on in. And this A feels perfect, but B, you have to think about the kickers and stuff like this, right? Michigan has gotten into situations where they're tied or really, really close coming into the first half, second half, and put points on the board with a man named Jake Bates' leg. It's happened continuously through weeks 1 and 2. It will happen again here on the day. Again, not the first person to say this whatsoever. If you are the Michigan Panthers, you need to come down the field off of these kickoffs, get 20 yards up. That's all you really, really need to make this possible for 3 for Jake Bates. He is the most exciting player on the team for a reason. That said, no touchdowns equal out to a hard under. Folks, this is a railing the Michigan under pretty much every game they play. Even the Stallions earlier, there was a 17-10 game there for majority of the game. 2013 being, of course, the ending score right there. And there's you're not going to see a Michigan game that gets that low. It's still hit an under. I think the lowest we saw last year was like 35.5, and even then, this is Michigan Panthers. This is where we live, forcing offenses to try and do their best against our defense, which is one of the best in the league. Once again, is where we're going to make our bread and butter. I'm feeling both of these bets as well. Michigan -2 and under 38.5. We'll get into that like a little bit at the end. Moving on to game number 4 on Sunday. St. Louis visiting San Antonio down there in Texas. Relatively higher over and under at 42.5. Regardless, folks, I'm not fading St. Louis. Outside of maybe the Stallions, maybe the Showboats or something like this, and this line is way too low. Brahmas, love what they're doing over there in the cow pasture, the Brahmas bullpen, right? At the end of the day, this is not sustainable against a squad like the St. Louis Battlehawks. AJ McCarron is going to come out there. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath, a shootout at the OK Corral, folks. Chase Garber's over here for the Brahmas. I think they've tossed 5 or 6 passing touchdowns so far. That can obviously equal it out to anywhere between like 30 and 45 points with the 3-point conversions, whatnot. Obviously, these have not been attempted outside of necessity very much across weeks 1 and 2. McCann as well. We also have some injuries for both of these squads, so newer guys going to be able to come in here and kind of show what they can do, right? This is the perfect opportunity. St. Louis, Battle Hawks. These fans will travel as well, visiting on down there in San Antone. Go on down, visit the Riverwalk, right? See the Alamo and everything else, but get your ass down there to the Alamo Dome Sunday evening. I believe that's their central time, so I believe that's a 2 p.m. start time. Not 100% sure. Don't quote me on this. This is not a when our game starting segment of the Panthers podcast. This is a gambling segment of the Panthers podcast. So St. Louis definitely taking -1. This is also an over, so I'm taking 2 unders and 2 overs. Memphis, Showboats, Birmingham Stallions under, Houston and Michigan under, DC, Arlington over 43.5, St. Louis, San Antonio over 42.5. This is the game though that I feel like this is gonna destroy the over. This could be our first mid 50s game. I believe the highest that we've gotten so far is 51. I'm not saying anything bad about either of these two defenses by any means, but these are high-powered offenses that have both shown across the 2 weeks that they can get it done, even against some fantastic squads. Now, St. Louis is embarrassing opening loss to us. This shows what they do against really strong defenses. San Antonio they're just not that guy, just not on the same level defensively. Got the numbers to back it up. San Antonio has also played some fantastic ball. Chase Garber has found a way to get this ball out, even rush the ball a little bit. John Trey Kirkland is an absolute beast as well. If San Antonio establishes Kirkland as this #1 receiver and consistently makes him a threat that sometimes even especially in zone coverage, they're going to have to go forth and dedicate 2 defensive players just to covering him until he gets to the outside or something like this, then this is something that allows for a whole lot of points to be scored. Running through this here at the very, very end, again, DC, Arlington +1 over 43.5. Memphis and Birmingham, gotta take Birmingham. Don't feel great about it, under 40.5. Houston and Michigan, Michigan -2. Lock it up, under 35.5 as well. Lock it up. Might be some SGP territory there as well. St. Louis and the San Antonio Brahmas. That is St. Louis -1 over 42.5. Feel pretty good about the over here as well. Best points play, little two here at the end. I've got to say Arlington. I feel like there is a lot of holdover for the DC Defenders from last year and from what they were able to do. This is not your mama's DC Defenders. This is not the DC Defenders that you guys knew last year. One of the biggest, most important parts of this is maintaining consistent parts of your offensive and defensive line. That is something that, say, the Birmingham Stallions have done absolutely fantastically. That is something that the DC Defenders cannot say in any way, shape, or form that they have been able to accomplish on any part in any way, shape, or form on the same level. And there's so many newer parts that week 3, I don't see this being the week that DC gets it together. What I think that they need is they need at least a couple more games for a middle of the season, which is essentially a new team, and they probably need a home field advantage against a solid offense, and that's not going to happen here for opening day on Saturday here, week 1. Shout out to the 10 a.m. start time. Good God, people. Shout out. Yes, they're going up against the Masters. I don't care because I don't watch golf, people. But I am not an early riser. We were just covering this a little bit earlier, beginning of the gambling segment, right? Not an early riser. Love the 10 a.m. start times. Love this 10 a.m. start times. We're going to get a 9 a.m. start time, of course, on Sunday. But going on throughout the rest of the week, for my other night owls, right? We are getting later and later games. I believe there's only one more week in the regular season where both games, Saturday and Sunday, start at 9 a.m. So, best points play is Arlington +1, or best play, is Arlington +1. If we want to take points specifically, like totals, parlay, I'm feeling great about the Michigan under 38.5. Feeling great about the St. Louis Battlehawks and the San Antonio Brahmas doing battle in the Alamo Dome. Going over 42.5. Lock it in. Now, just a couple things to watch for, and something I'm super interested here is the DC Defenders team points. Right now it sits at 21. I'm finding this one in a local Vegas book called Station. Here, if you can find it, it might be something worth looking at. All of these plays so far have been one unit outside of first half. Excuse me. First half St. Louis minus 0.5. That is half a unit for me. So investigating this, DC Defenders team points 21. This is, of course, the equivalent of 3. This is one of the more interesting bets. I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on this just to kind of make myself pay attention to it, right? But folks, especially again, DC, Arlington, St. Louis, San Antonio, you got to watch for these live overs. First and foremost, on most of the real sports books, the established sports books, your Caesars, your MGMs, your William Hills, things like this. Once the game starts, and especially these, points going to drop. Half a point, pretty reliably. A point, sometimes a point and a half within the first minute or so. If there is not an opening kickoff for a massive return, or obviously 4 points. Now, you obviously missed your opportunity for betting if the opening kickoff was returned A, heavy, or gain B for points. But, hey, I would rather go forth and put myself up with basically just cheating up a point and a half than to sometimes, rarely, very rarely so far, come in and not be able to place a bet. And also, I mean, frequently you come in, they score, the other team comes in, they go 3 and out, then you get another 3 and out. Now you're basically back to exactly where you started after 7 or 8 minutes or whatnot. But just in general, watching these live bets is fantastic because I don't know who is managing the books over here on the live side. It's got to be automated in some way, shape, or form because these books do not take into account the comeback factors, right? I did not take the San Antonio Brahmas. I was heavy the other way. I was heavy Memphis last week, and a +2.5 did cover. Fortunately, thank God they missed that 2-point conversion at the end to take a 3-point advantage because old Tugboat sunk a lot into that one. As it is, we are looking at an automated system that seems to be that they don't understand that you can go for 9 total in a single drive, or with the comeback rules, with the 4th and 12 from the 30, right? Some of these just straight up money lines. So obviously, some of the against the spread, the ATS will be heavily affected. But I think honestly, the money line stuff is probably the biggest. Those are the biggest juice numbers I've seen for a squad that's down by 8. For example, right? I'm really interested to see what's going to happen if this win, I guess probably across these 10 weeks, it comes down and a team is down by 8 or something like that with 45 seconds left and at least 2 timeouts, and how the books will kind of keep this in mind because there is a lot of opportunity for this one, especially if you're talking about a San Antonio Brahmas, for example, Wade Phillips, who's shown himself very willing to go forth, try things on 4th down, trick plays, and everything in between. What I'm talking about, of course, is coming forth and not going for 2, but going for 3, not just going for the tie for 2, but going for 3 and actually taking a point advantage with whatever in that situation time would be left. Now, Wade Phillips is going to be also similar. This is another point that I have down here. Michigan Panthers are almost an auto fading the over, always taking the under. Wade Phillips, until these numbers until they face a really bad team, or until they face the Stallions, or unless the number is talking about 50, 48.5, something like this. I'm gonna try and rail these overs because week 1 was all unders. Now we're getting back to a little bit of a correctiveness, and also all of these teams are settling down into the comfortability of their regular season form. This is week 3. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast specifically about the Panthers, but all teams have to get in again and get settled. Yes, there's going to be injuries. Yes, there's going to be new faces, new names on teams and whatnot. Yes, you have to get comfortable. You have to be malleable and really go forth across a season and come out with your finest form. Live lines, and I already mentioned this. This is also something that you really have to take into account. All right, personally, Las Vegas. I hope this is not news to anybody that gambling is legal here in Las Vegas. That is not necessarily the case across this great country, though. Born and raised in South Carolina, they have DFS stuff just like everywhere else. Those aren't real sports books, people. If you're forced to parlay things together, you're not gambling on a real sports book, people. Texas. Texas, Alabama, and Missouri all do not have the online sports books, right? Like the stuff on the apps that you can go forth and place wagers on your phone within the state lines. Now, what this means is the real sports books, again, Caesars, MGM, William Hill, things like this, are going to be massively affected when people from that state are coming in and, as logic would follow, going to be placing large bets on their home teams. So your Texas teams, your Alabama, and your Missouri, these are squad. Now, I should put a little addition on here. Alabama, obviously, right next to Missouri. Missouri has all kinds, or not Missouri, Mississippi, excuse me, has obviously all kinds of riverboats, sports gambling, everything in between. So people crossing state lines can put in bets, but within the home state, this is really going to be affecting, especially in Texas. Especially in Texas, given how large it is, given how many football fans there are, given how many UFL fans there are specifically, and given that there are 3 whole teams down there. One of them, the San Antonio Brahmas, obviously undefeated as of right now. Missouri as well, but Missouri does have plenty of casinos around. Just because there's a casino, however, does not mean, A, that they're going to be betting reliably, because then you have to go in there, and it's not just as easy as opening up your phone, and B, there's no guarantee that they're going to have UFL as well. There has been some larger, some other sports gambling podcasts and whatnot that have gone forth and placed large wagers and literally watched lines move. There are not a whole lot of people betting on the UFL. When these lines move, you can basically what I'm saying is anticipate teams named the DC Defenders, the Michigan Panthers, and the Memphis Showboats to come forth, and when lines open, there's going to be a lot of people from that home state betting on that team, whether they're diehard UFL fans, whether they're first-time bettors, or whether they're people, they're sharps that know these sports and consistently make a profit on some of these smaller sports that are not focused on by every single supercomputer and algorithm on the entire planet. Also, I just have like a little bit of a don the old tinfoil cap, right? I feel like they are intentionally going for bad times, right? Week 1 going up against college basketball, going up against the I guess like eighth opening day of Major League Baseball. Week 2 going up against the women's finals, the men's Final Four. All kinds of stuff this week, going up against the Masters. Easter, of course. So what? Pretty much all. I mean, Michigan, it definitely isn't. Missouri, you can't really call the South. Texas isn't really the South, but regardless. Sorry, what I'm saying is like people from the South, religious, don't have to be in the South to be religious. I suppose. Excuse me. All of these states, places where there's plenty of religious folks. Hey, except for maybe DC. And they're going to be going to religious services, right? Obviously majority Christian, Catholic, whatever here within the United States of America, and most people worship on Sunday mornings. Now, pretty much all of these except for Texas are and parts of Missouri are going to be Eastern time zone as well. And so when you're going, and 1 p.m. is the standard time that you're used to getting out on Sundays for the NFL and whatnot. And when you have a game starting at, 9 a.m. here would be noon there, like you're already kind of pushing. And this is really like just going against bad times and kind of competing for eyes when, hey, it's Sunday. This is when people go forth and worship and whatnot. My theory, though, is that they are going to go forth, and they're intentionally doing this to have bad numbers towards the beginning of the season and then have an end of the season that really pops off. I mean, there are only so many ways to really get an end of a season having really, really good records. Now, we will see if we will see if that's really the case, if they choose to change some of, I would say week 7 to 10 or maybe week 8 to 10 based on any other big competitions or any other competitions or other things that they may not have thought about that would go forth and compete for reviews and whatnot. Regardless, folks, this has been the Panthers Points Podcast. I am your host, FBI Tugboat.
You ever made out with a tugboat?
Appreciate you watching. If you are fading, if you are tailing, go ahead and comment down there on the comment section and whatnot. I'm at FBI Tugboat literally everywhere. Appreciate you guys watching. There's going to be a lot of awesome Panthers content coming to you guys throughout the regular season. Big fat shout out, bam, right there to the UFM, the United Football Media Group. They have come forth and providing you, the UFL fans, the spring football fans, some of the best content that have ever been recorded. Appreciate you guys. Panthers out.